Hello, hello, hello. CT Luna here. Welcome to the Audio Lab. I'm laughing at myself because I literally read like 3 pages before I was like, I really don't think my headset and my microphone is on. So I think I just read for like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, 10 minutes into the void. So I apologize. I am actually just re-recording this live for this audio lab. So throughout the month of July, I'm running this experiment, which is all about reading directly from my book, Brown Beyond Borders, Emerging into Golden Multidimensionality. And basically, reading from it every day in sequence, so that you can listen in if you prefer to listen to your books like audiobooks, then that's something that you can do if you don't have a copy of this book. These daily drops stay open for just a few days before they head into the archives for my paid subscribers. So, if you want to stay a free subscriber, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure you keep up because they drop on a daily basis. If you ever miss a session or if you want to have like all of these grouped together, then the best way of doing that over a period of time, the best way of doing that is to become a paid subscriber, even if it means for paying for just a month and then, keeping your ebook and maybe listening to the audiobook over the course of the month at your own pace. Anyway, so I'm going to continue chapter 10, this time with a microphone. In about 30 minutes, we had made our way back to our little office tucked away near the far end of the parking lot. I sat at my cubicle of the day and looked at the shiny star. It was an attractive little award, and I felt a sense of warmth at having my work acknowledged, even though I'd only been with the team for a few months. And then the little worm of a voice reappeared. You are more than processing documents, Cynthia. Get a job where you shine. Honestly, I wasn't quite sure what that job could be. For years, people seemed to like my writing, even though I never really took writing seriously. I committed to public relations as a professional vocation and secured loans to attend a top communication school, where I earned my degree. But we all know how badly I had burned out in Washington doing that work. I was scared of putting myself in the hands of so many story starved individuals who would chew you up and chew you out to be the first, the best, the fastest. I was grateful for the situation I found myself in: a job, a place to stay on the most beautiful island in the United States, if not the world, and a loving relationship with my sweetheart. So, why this worm of a thought? I squirmed in my chair, uncomfortable. Was I being ungrateful? Only a few months ago, I would have done nearly anything to get a job and have a steady income. And here I was with a lovely team. We laughed often, we got along well. I was included and made to feel a part of this cohort of data entry professionals. The award ceremony from earlier that day shone a spotlight on the American dream. As pleased as I was to receive my shiny silver star, it was obvious to me that the external validation I received for enabling the swift sales of timeshare properties was not living towards my dream. What was my dream? To be involved in activities where I could pursue my interests, curiosity, and passion to create value and contribute positively towards our potential for joy and growth. Something like that. I put the star down and resumed my filing duties, but the tension remained. Inside, a voice tugged at me. Don't settle for comfort and security. You're meant for more. A word about intuition and your inner voice. When this voice commanded me not to settle, it was unsettling. I wanted to ignore it because I felt like heeding the voice would be an expression of ingratitude. But I couldn't ignore it because I knew it was telling me my truth with a capital T. Get in alignment with my assignment. A concept I've come to understand is finding and pursuing the work that aligns with my skills, passions, and values. So today, nearly 20 years later, I can finally make a clear distinction between the voice, which enters the mind as a complete and usually single sentence, and mind chatter. When it's the voice, it does not abide by discussions or negotiations with my other thoughts. It said what it said. Getting comfortable and sticking around in that job indefinitely for security was not aligned with living my purpose. I knew that mentally and spiritually, but I had no idea what to do next. And I was not about to quit this job I genuinely enjoyed without another source of income. So I kept filing until the end of the day. After a day of processing documents and preparing sales contracts, I headed into my car, ready to return home. Traffic inched forward, and as we slowly made our way past the town of Lahaina, all I could see was smoke. And I realized what I was witnessing was a bushfire along the 2-lane highway. I had never seen a bushfire before. It was impressive. I was in awe and wanted to avoid it at all costs. Traffic barely budged as I processed this information. Bumper to bumper, we all stood on the same paved road that would lead us all back to central Maui. After about 10 minutes of inactivity, I decided to turn around and head back in the direction I had come, towards Lahaina and beyond. I had never driven around the entire island. Surely the road I was on encircled the entire landmass that floated in the middle of the Pacific. So I executed a 3-point turn and made my way back to Lahaina, then Ka'anapali, and beyond. The sun was starting to set. By the time I had passed the Ka'anapali resorts, where I used to work for the construction worker and his deputy, the sun had dipped into the Pacific Ocean and the evening became night. It was around this time that the road began to narrow and twist and turn around the head of the island. I was navigating this road, and the only lights I had were my high beams. Have you ever driven in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, between a rock and an abyss? When your high beams are your only source of light, the only assurance that you have that you're on the road is the reflection of that light off the pavement. This road hugged a mountain on the passenger side. My driver's side edged a cliff, and the passenger side headlamp reflected off the Maui mountain, whichever it was. I drove at a crawl. As I advanced every half minute or so, the headlights of my car would shine into the deep, black void ahead of me. No road, no mountain edge, nothing. The road switched back into a hairpin turn towards the right. I inched forward, praying that the mountainside would reflect the passenger side of the car to me. Sometimes I hugged the side of the mountain so closely it almost scraped the paint off my car. The sound of scraping paint would have been reassuring. For what seemed like hours and miles, I continued inching forward, navigating numerous switchbacks and turns. Every time my high beam spilled out into a void, there was no light. Rhonda Byrne's lilting Australian accent was the soundtrack to the entire drive. The option to turn around and drive back to confront the bushfire never presented itself. The road was so narrow that it only just fit the width of my car. Every now and again, I could see headlights of an oncoming car bounce and rumble towards me, a local who knew these roads like the back of their hand. They would stop ahead and wait for me to pass, where they knew the road was just wide enough to accommodate two. Thank God. Barely had I sidled up next to their vehicle when they would speed off into the black night, their red taillights in my rearview mirror disappearing one by one, like two eyes closing one after the other. I pushed on. Having studied a map of the island, I was reasonably sure the road wrapped around this part of the island, but now I wasn't so sure anymore. All the telltale signs of civilized life had fallen away a while ago. The road was only 1 lane narrow. There were no lights from houses, and if there were, they were tucked away in a jungle so dense that I could neither see entrances to them nor any lights shining out to the road. I was driving blind. All I could hear was the crashing of waves against the body of this landmass I was wrapping my car around. It sounded very nearby. My attention focused on it, and I used my keen sense of hearing to navigate my car around the tight curves of the road. When I could hear waves crashing in front of my automobile, it confirmed what my high beams told me. I'd have to hug the mountain again for another turn because there was no longer any road for my lights to shine upon. It might have been 10 minutes or 60 minutes in, but after a while, I began to pray. The audiobook, a distant soundtrack to my silent incantations. It's hard to describe. This was not the blind repetition of words and rhymes one learns in church. This prayer was reverent. I knew there was a presence in and around my car, and I spoke directly to this presence. I put myself in your hands. It's the only way I'll make it to the other side. Almost instantly, the muscles in my upper back loosened up and my grip on the steering wheel released a little. For the remainder of the drive along this winding road, I was no longer behind the wheel. A power greater than myself was at the helm. I kept my eyes focused on the depths of the darkness before us and my thoughts on coming out the other end of the tunnel. It was like driving through a curly, unlit tunnel where you were not allowed to touch or scrape the walls. There was only one way to get out the other end, and you couldn't use your physical senses to feel your way through. You had to use your non physical senses to reach the other end. And that's what I did for 30 miles on the curly Kahekili Highway in the pitch of night. As the road widened to accommodate other lane, signs of civilization began to emerge. Some windows glowing yellow with light in the distance to my right. The road distanced itself from the edge of land, and the ocean no longer had a cliff edge to beat itself against. A calm settled in when I realized I must be getting closer to our little studio apartment in Wai'ehu. Smoothly and seamlessly, my consciousness returned to the steering wheel. I looked at the clock. It was past 8 o'clock, which meant this detour to avoid the bushfire, had taken me well over 3 hours. My sweetheart called me on my cell phone. I flipped it open. Can you come pick me up? I don't want to cycle back, he said. Sure, I can do that, I responded, but I might be a while. There was a bushfire along the highway, and I don't know if it'll create traffic out where you are. My sweetheart worked on the south side of the island. That's okay, he said, and we disconnected the call. I drove past a few landmarks that confirmed I was now driving through our neighborhood and pushed the gas pedal past our little town to head back towards central Maui and continue through Kihei and further on still to Wailea, where my sweetheart worked. I was tired, but I knew that the worst was behind me. The island had initiated me as one of its own. From deep within, a golden tingling suffused my body, bringing with it a profound sense of knowing. That night will forever be the night I knew I belonged. And that is the end of part 3. And we're about to enter into part 4, but that won't be till tomorrow. So that's where we're stopping for today. If you have a question about the book, the writing process, or anything we covered in today's segment, drop it in the comments of this post, and I might just answer yours on a future episode. I'm really glad I get to share this unedited process with you. Look out for the next pages in your inbox tomorrow morning. And if you know someone who would connect with this part of the journey, please share this post with them while it's still open to the public. And if you want to support this audio experiment and my writing as I start drafting book 2, consider becoming a paid subscriber to unlock everything. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.